Have you ever thought, scales are boring? When I first started learning the piano, I used to feel the same. Practicing sequences of notes, remembering key signatures, remembering the fingering, with so many different scales to learn, which I'm probably never going to use. What a waste of time, right? Well, I was wrong. As I continued on my piano learning journey, and ultimately ended up going professional, touring as a session player in theatre shows and playing around the world in bands and recording in studios, I grew to respect them and to understand how truly important they were to becoming a musician. So here are 5 reasons why you should learn scales and how they'll make the process of learning piano much easier and more rewarding. If you're not currently learning scales and theory, then the chances are that you're not going down the traditional route of having private one-on-one lessons with a teacher. Or if you are, you might be just learning them purely because you've been told to do so, for an exam, for example. You might also like the idea of learning the piano without learning to read sheet music, which then leans towards learning to play using piano chords and improvising. Well, watch this. If I pick a chord progression in the left hand, let's go with E minor, C major, A minor, and then B major. If I wanted to play music with a wistful, melancholic, or dramatic feel, then I could choose to play notes from a harmonic minor scale in the right hand. Or if you want a more bluesy rock vibe, I could switch to using a minor blues scale. So if you know the scales, you can instantly start playing around and making your own music, because you know which notes are going to work. And let's just say I wanted to play something that sounded brighter and more positive. I could choose to play a major scale. For example, and did you notice how I changed some of the chords in the left-hand progression there? I needed to do this to make the chords work with the major scale. And how did I know which chords to change to? And to what? How did I even choose the chord progression in the first place? This leads me to... Diatonic is an important word to understand when learning piano. It means within the key of. So if you are playing using the E major scale, you can build triad chords on every degree of the scale using notes from that scale. For example, here's the E major scale. If you build triad chords on every degree of that scale, so E major, F sharp minor, G sharp minor, A major, B major, C sharp minor, D sharp diminished, and then E major on the top. So that's another advantage of learning and knowing your scales. I knew that when I changed to improvising in the E major scale, those left-hand chords, which before were E minor, C, A minor, and B major, they had to fit in with the chords that I just played here, the diatonic chords in the key of E major. So the E minor had to change to an E major. The C, I changed to a C sharp minor. And then the A minor, I changed to an A major, and then the B major was the same. So rather than using trial and error and realising that my right-hand major scale didn't fit with some of those left-hand chords, the scale showed me which chords would work. Scales are the foundation of music. So when it comes to learning new songs, if you are already familiar with the scale, whether you're playing blues, pop, classical, or jazz, scales are behind the music. Understanding them means you'll recognise patterns faster. For example, Clair de Lune is in D flat major, which has 5 flats. Trying to dissect and learn the piece without knowing the scale would be extremely challenging. But if you know the scale, then you'll already know which notes need to be flattened, be familiar with the sequences of keys being used, and therefore be able to learn the piece quicker. In a way, this one links back in with the previous one. If you know your scales, then it makes it much easier when it comes to memorising the pieces or songs that you're learning. I'll show you what I mean. If we take the piece River Flows in You by Urema. Which is in F sharp minor. If you know the F sharp natural minor scale, which is essentially the same notes as the A major scale, then you are already familiar with the notes and scale patterns the piece will use. And if you think about it, you are narrowing down the choice of notes that you need to remember, because the melodies are using the framework of the scale in question. And on top of that, a lot of the time, the left-hand chords or arpeggios or whatever is going on in the left hand are diatonic as well, meaning within the key of, which again makes it easier to recall if you know the notes of the scale as well. You're not just remembering a random scattering of notes, they're connected to the scale. If you're enjoying this lesson, then you may be interested in joining Bird's Piano Academy. So rather than jumping from one random video lesson to the next, which can be frustrating and a waste of time, there's a whole range of structured courses that will teach you step by step in bite-sized lessons. They're designed to get you playing impressive piano in a short space of time. If that sounds interesting, I'll leave a link in the description below. Learning scales helps you see and hear how music theory works. Major versus minor, intervals, key signatures, chords, they all make a lot more sense once you've got scales under your fingers. If we take it back to the first example we used, I was improvising using the E harmonic minor scale. If I wanted to add some harmonies to the melodies in the right hand, all I would need to do would be to play some intervals of thirds and sixths using notes from that scale, and I can improvise harmonies on the spot. No need to guess, I know that they will work in this key. And finally, whilst you're practicing scales, all along they'll be helping you to develop the strength, coordination and independence you need to be able to move your hands smoothly. Basically gaining the control that you need to be able to play the piano well. It's like going to the gym for your hands. So all in all, learning scales is great for improvising, creating music, writing songs, learning and memorising pieces, understanding music and how it all fits together, and playing along with other musicians. There are so many benefits. Learning them will literally make you a better musician. So next time you're thinking, shall I learn some scales? Shall I practice them? I would say yes. There are too many good reasons why you should. So go for it. And if you enjoyed this video, there's a high chance that you'll find this one interesting.